Hi, this is Karthik. I welcome you all for this session. In this session, I'm going to teach you Introduction to Cascading Style Sheet. Once again, I repeat the topic, Introduction to Cascading Style Sheet. First, we'll see the objectives. Introduction to Cascading Style Sheet, CSS. CSS definitions. Advantages of CSS. CSS terminologies. CSS commands, how to define a CSS, embedded and inline style sheet, internal and external style sheets. So these are the objectives we are going to discuss in this session. First, we will see the definition for CSS. What is CSS? CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. Once again I repeat, CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. So what is a style? Okay, here is a definition. Style defines how to display HTML elements. Okay, what is a style? Defines how to display HTML elements. And styles are normally stored in style sheets. So where these styles will be stored? Yeah, here is the answer. Styles are normally stored in style sheet. So cascading style sheets. So enables you to define how type is displayed on your web page. So using CSS you can able to define how your web page should be. The term cascading refers to ordered sequence of style, right? What is a cascading? Cascading is nothing but a ordered sequence of style. What is a style? A style is a group of formatting attributes. So what is a style? A style is a group of formatting attributes identified by a single name. So how the style can be identified? So style can be identified by a single name. Once again I repeat, what is a style? A style is a group of formatting attributes. So how the style can be identified? Identified by a single name. Next, a style in HTML documents gives you a great deal of control over text formatting. So what style in HTML gives you? The styles in HTML document gives you a great deal of control. So you can have the control over your web pages and over text formatting. To control the appearance of a website by creating a style sheet, we can able to control the appearance of a website. How? By creating a style sheet. So cascading style sheets are a method of web design that format a web page content according to a presentation style specified by the web page author. So what is a cascading style sheets? CSS or a methods of web design. So what is it? It's nothing but the method of a web design that formats web page content. So if you want to format the web page content, here is the answer. You want to use cascading style sheet. So how? According to the presentation style. So who is going to define this presentation style? The web page author is going to define the presentation style. So there are several advantages of using CSS to format the presentation element of a web page. So what is that? Once again I repeat, there are several advantages to use or using CSS to format the presentation element of a web page. So CSS essentially separate the document content from the manner in which it is presented. So what CSS will do? The CSS will separate the text content and the style in which it is presented, thus allowing for more fluid transition between the various web browsers. So we used to say as browser compatibility. So where we are going to run this web page on a different kinds of web browser. So how to control this? Here is a key answer. Only thing, using CSS you can able to go for browser compatibility. CSS also provide more precious control over spacing, alignment and positioning of content without relying on the need of layout tables or frames. So how to control the spacing and position of an element or a content? This is simple. CSS will do this. Font style, colors, font size can be manipulated using CSS as well. So now we are going to see the definition for CSS. Cascading Style Sheet is a rule-based language. What is it? It's a rule-based language that applies styles for your HTML elements. Once again I repeat, CSS is a rule-based language that applies styling to your HTML elements. You write CSS rule in elements and modify properties of those elements such as color, background color, width, border, thicknesses, font size, etc. So what is the CSS? Is a rules-based language that applies styles on HTML elements, as well as you can able to control the properties of an HTML element. So what is the advantage of style sheet? Saves time, because we are going to write the cascading style sheet separately, which is going to save the time, and the same cascading style sheet can be used for different web pages. Easy to change. Whenever you need changes, if you do the changes in style sheet, which will reflect in all the web pages, keep consistency, give more control over your layout, because we are writing CSS which have the browser compatibility, where we can able to control our look and feel. Use styles with JavaScript and HTML. We can able to use these styles with JavaScript or HTML. Make it easy to create a common format for all web pages. As you said, the cascading style sheet is going to have a central control over all the web pages. Whenever there is a change in this style sheet, which will reflect on multiple web pages. So, introduction to cascading style sheet. So, CSS syntax is made up of 5 parts. Now we are entering into CSS. So, CSS syntax or semantics is made up of 5 parts. What are they? First one is a selector, property value, declaration, declaration blocks, curly braces. Once again I repeat, CSS syntax is made up of 5 parts, namely selector, property value, declaration, declaration block, curly braces. So the CSS syntax is made up of 5 parts, where you can able to see in diagram. So this one is called the selector. So we can select this selector. When we select this selector, the corresponding format or corresponding styles will be applied. And next comes your declaration. This entire part is called as declaration, where it consists of property and value. The color is a property, the number is a value, and this is also a declaration, and this entire thing put together is called as declaration block. So, and these are curly braces. So this is the way you can able to define a CSS. First start by the selector, and then curly braces, and then comes your declaration, property, what property you are going to use, color, and then corresponding value, semicolon, and corresponding value, colon, corresponding value. After completing this, you want to use semicolon. Then going for next declaration, font size is a property, colon, and then you want to give the value is X large, and you want to close it using semicolon, and then after doing all the changes, you want to close the syntax by using curly braces. Once again we see one more example. It's a rule. The syntax of CSS is made up of 5 parts. One is a selector and declaration. See, this entire block is called the declaration, where a declaration consists of property and value, and this is also one more declaration where it consists of property and value. This entire thing is called as a declaration block, and this is called as curly braces, opening and closing curly braces. So now we are going to see the definition for selector. So what is a selector? So what a selector will do, identifies the HTML elements that the rule will be applied to, identified by the actual element name, example body, or by means such as class, attribute, values. So what is a selector? So identify the HTML elements. So the selector are used to identify the HTML elements that the rule will be applied to. which rule we are going to apply, to whom you are going to apply, to which attribute you are going to apply, will be decided based on the selector. Identify by the actual name or element name. Example body, you can use HTML element as the selector, or you can use some other names such as class ID or identifier or attributes and values. So here is the example. The selector is normally the HTML element you want to write this style. For example, now I want to redefine the style of H1. H1 is an HTML tag. Now I'm going to redefine the style for H1. How? First, H1 is a selector, then followed by the curly braces, opening curly braces. Then comes your declaration block, which consists of property color. Then you use semicolon, value blue, and after completing this use semicolon, then followed by next property, font size, colon, and followed by the value. And you want to close, you want to use semicolon. It means that the property value has been end, and then you want to close the syntax by using curly braces. So a selector can be, how many types of selectors are there? Is there any rule to use anything as selector? Here is the answer. The grouping of elements, the selector can be either a grouping of element, an identifier, a class, a single XHTML element such as body, div, etc., etc., blah blah blah. Once again I repeat, the selector can either be a grouping of elements, an identifier, a class, a single XHTML element, like body, div, etc., etc. Now we'll see one by one. The selector syntax. You can use a selector or element, then followed by the opening curly braces, then property, colon, value, semicolon, then closing curly braces. So this is called the syntax for defining a selector. Once again I repeat, selector or element, followed by opening curly braces, then comes your property, colon, you want to give the corresponding value. After giving the value, you want to close it by using semicolon. If you have any other property here, you can start with, or else you just close the syntax by curly braces. So the type element selector. So first, now we are going to use an element as selector. Specify the style for a single HTML element. So if you use an element, HTML element, so specify what it will do. Specify the style for a single HTML document or HTML document, right? If you can use the HTML element as a selector, so the styles will be applied only to the corresponding element. For example, I'm going to use the body tag. So I'm going to open the curly braces, then comes the property margin. I'm going to set the value 0 and close it, and I'm going for next property value, padding 0, next property value, border top 1px solid, and I'm going to give some value, and I'm going to close this body selector by using curly braces, closing curly braces. So grouping elements allows you to specify a single style for multiple elements at one time. If you want to specify a single style for multiple elements, here is the answer, grouping elements. For example, I want to group H1 to H6 for a single style, or else I want to apply a single style for all heading level elements, H1, H2, H3, H4, H5 and H6. So here you can use commas, selector 1 comma, selector 2 comma, selector 3. Likewise, you can use any number of selectors. So I'm going to start the syntax by using curly braces, then comes your property, the font family. I'm going to give the value. Okay, it's the first option, and the second option I'm going to close it. So it is called as a grouping element. So grouping elements allows you to specify a single style for multiple selectors or multiple elements. Next comes class and ID selectors. In addition to setting a style for HTML element, CSS allows you to specify your own selectors called ID and class. Still now we are using only HTML elements as selector, which is already defined with the style. We are overriding this style by using the external cascading style sheet, or we are overriding it by writing a separate style for it. But the CSS allows you to create your own selectors called as class or ID. Let me see one by one. ID. The ID selector is used to specify a style for a single unique element. If you want to specify a style for a single unique element, you want to use ID. The ID selector uses the ID attribute of HTML element, and it is defined with a hash symbol. Whenever you want to define an ID selector, it should start with hash symbol, this symbol. Once again I repeat, whenever you want to define an ID attribute or ID selector, you want to use hash symbol. The style rule below will be appear to element with ID equal to para1. So I am going to use the user defined tag ID. So always starts with hash symbol para1, then followed by text align, that is a property value. It's a property value. So class. The class selector is used to specify a style for a group of element. That is a ID for single unique element. It's a group of element. Unlike ID, the class selector is most often used on several elements. But in case of ID, can be used only for a single specific selector, because for example an ID, if you take any IDs, ID cannot be in multiple. It will be an unique for one person. Likewise, if you are going to use ID, it will be unique for a specific element. But in case of class, you can use this class for several elements. This allows you to set a particular style of any HTML element with the same class. The class selector uses the HTML class attribute and is defined with a dot symbol. In case of ID, will start with an hash symbol, but in case of class, will start with an dot symbol period. The example below, all HTML elements with class equal to center will be align center. Dot center is an user defined selector, it's a class, followed by curly braces, open and close curly braces, then comes your property value. Okay, so here is the image. What is the H1 selector? It's a class or ID. Can you able to guess it? It's a class or ID? No, it is an HTML element as the selector. If it is a class, it should start with a dot symbol. If it is a ID, it should start with an hash symbol. So this is nothing but this is an example for HTML element as selector. So here is an example. So open a notepad and type the following code. So HTML and head. Inside the head you want to use a style tag. Style type is equal to text or CSS. So this one is an ID para1, text align center, color red, and style close. I'm going to close the head and body. I'm going to use P, that is para. ID is equal to para1. I'm going to use the style hello world. So this paragraph is not affected by this style. So this paragraph is not, because I'm not going to use this ID. So I'm going to use this. I'm going to type this in a notepad. HTML head, then followed by the styles. I'm going to close the head tag, and then comes your body. In body I'm going to apply this style ID equal to para1, and this paragraph without this style. I'm going to close it. I'm going to run it. So where you can able to see this paragraph is affected by CSS. This is not affected by this style. So this is an example for ID as in selector. So next comes your class as selector. The same, you want to open a notepad and you want to type the following code: HTML head. Inside the head you want to define the style. The style is a tag and you want to specify the type equal to text or CSS. Dot center. So what is this? This is nothing but a class. Anything which start with period or dot is called as a class, and then comes your property value, text align and value. You want to close your style tag and head tag and body. Open your body tag, h1 class equal to center. I'm going to apply this style, center align heading, and I'm going to use the same for paragraph also, because it is a class, it's not an ID. So open your notepad and you type the following, this HTML head, and you want to apply the style tag and close your head and open the body tag and apply the styles and save it, and you can run this, so where we can able to see this style. So the class selector, as already we have discussed, that a class selector can be used for any number of elements. It's a reusable component, that's why the name class. And so you can open and dot intro, so you can use any identifier, then followed by curly braces. It's a property value, it's a property value. You can close it and you can save it as .css. So identifier or a class, what is the difference? As we talked about, identifier is specified only once a page as a higher inheritance specificity than a class, because it's an unique, and identifier is nothing but is an unique, or ID is an unique. But in case of class, a class can be used several times. A class is reusable as many times as needed in a page. As you said, a class can be used anytime, but in case of identifier, it can be used only for a specific element. Use identifier for line selection and subselection of your documents. And next comes the property and value. The property is the style attribute you want to change. Each property has a value. So what is a property? The property is the style attribute. What is it? It's a style attribute you want to change, and each property has a value. And properties are separated from the respective values by colons, and pairs are separated from each others by semicolons. So here we can able to see what is this. So this one is in property. So what is this? The color is in property. So this font size and color is in property, and blue and 12px is in value. So where the semicolon is nothing but properties are separated from respective values by semicolon. So this is a property and values. Properties are separated from value by colons, and pairs, that is property value pair and this property value pairs, are separated from each other by using semicolon. And each CSS line that includes a property and value. So where you can able to see in selector which will be having property value. So this is a property colon value, and between the properties we want to use semicolon. So multiple declaration lines include the curly braces. So you want to use the curly braces. So whenever if you are starting any style, you want to use opening curly braces. At the end you want to use closing curly braces. So curly braces. The curly braces contains the properties of elements you want to manipulate and the values you want to change them to. The curly braces plus their content is called the declaration block, right? So this is a curly brace and this is a curly brace. So the content along with the curly braces is called as a declaration block. So where we can able to see applying a single style sheet to multiple documents. For example, you will be having a multiple web pages where we can able to have a single style sheet which control the multiple web pages. That is the key or main advantages of style sheet. The style element. Fortunately, there are mechanisms in HTML to help in this situation. The first we will consider the style. So whenever you want to define a style, it is not possible to define without style tag. Okay, so it is possible if you want to define anything within the element, it is possible. So but HTML mechanism allows you to define a style by using the style tag. The style element is always placed in the head element of an HTML document. So be careful. So where you want to write your script, that is style, you should write the style element should be placed within the head tag. For example, style type equal to text or CSS. Here within this style tag you want to define your style. So h2 is an element, HTML element. So property value. So open a notepad and type style and type equal to text or CSS h2 color red. So now open a notepad, type the following code. So you want to type this following code. So we are going to apply the style tag. So style type equal to text by CSS, and we are going to define a style for paragraph P color red and text align center. We are going to close the style tag. So keep it in mind, the style should be placed within the head section. And open the body tag and we are going to apply the style. This is a paragraph. See, we have defined the style, we have not included anything, we have just included the paragraph. So we have not applied any class or ID. Let me check. So open a notepad, you type HTML and you want to always place the style sheet within the head section, and then style type equal to text or CSS. We are going to apply the style for paragraph tag color red, text align center. We are going to close the style sheet, and in case of body, open the body section, and then I'm going to use the paragraph tag. Let me see what is going to happen. I'm going to run this. See, the styles will be applied. How it will be applied? See, because we are going to redefine the style for paragraph tag using style tag. Commands. So normally whenever you are going for any programming, you want to give the commands for what you are using this. So the commands are used to explain your code and may help you when you edit the source code at later date. Commands are ignored by browsers, so the commands will be ignored. You can add the command by enclosing them / asterisk and asterisk /. The command can span several lines and the browser will ignore these lines. Example, so whenever you use this command, the browser will ignore this line. So what is the use of command? So it always a good programming, you want to explain why you are using this by use of commands. It will be very useful later on when you want to edit any web page. So here is an example. So HTML head. So here is the command. This is an example of how to use an ID in a CSS web page. So this line will be ignored by the web browser, and I'm going to write the style by using a style tag. Style type equal to text or CSS. So what is this? It's an ID. So para1 text align center color red. I'm going to close the style tag, head tag, and I'm going to open the body and I'm going to apply the style. Paragraph ID equal to para1, and for this paragraph no style is applied. And save this as .html and run this using a web browser. So this is not processed by a web browser, so where we can able to see the things. So how many ways to define a styles? First one is a default style, inline style, embedded style sheet, external style sheet. So default provides values for all element properties unless you change it. It's a default style. Whenever you are using any HTML element, it will be having its own default style. Inline, on the same line, the style is defined as an attribute of the element in place, within or inside the element. We used to say it's an inline, on the same line. Use for one-off or a special style. Embedded style sheet. The styles defined in a head portion of a web page. Use this if you don't have every many web pages, or for a style that useful only for a given web page. So embedded. So this will be embedded within the same page. So when to use this embedded style sheet if you want to apply the style only for a particular web page. External style sheet. So external style sheet is separated from the content, where it is going to have the central control. So styles defined in a separate file. Use this to centralize the style definition and provide uniformity across all pages of a website. So it's an internal style sheet, an example. So we want to use a style tag. So where we can able to see it's an internal within the same. Alright, so for a head, within the inside the head, title, and you want to define your style type equal text by CSS. I'm going to define the style for the paragraph, and you can apply this body section. So embedded, so HTML head, and you want to define the style tag, and then selectors. You can use any number of selectors and values, and then you want to close your style head and HTML. The style definitions go in a style elements in document head. The selector determines what elements the style rules will be applied to. The style definition separated by semicolon or enclosed inside the curly braces. So here is an example. So where we can able to see HTML head and title example page with an embedded styles. So embedded within the, we are going to define the styles within the head section. So we are going to define for body, font family, color, and for H1 paragraph and order list. So here is the example. So HTML head, so title, example page with embedded style sheet. And then you want to open the style tag, style type equal to text or CSS. Then you want to define the style for body and for heading level H1 and for paragraph, then for order list. And close your style tag and head, and then open the body tag. I think I've failed to close the body tag. Okay, and where we are going to use the H1 and P1 and order list, and save it, close it, and you can able to run it. See, so this is the way you want to apply it. This is an example for embedded style sheet. And inline style sheet is nothing but we are going to define the style within the same line or on the same, say div within the same line. Inline, inside this div we are going to define the style. Paragraph, we are going to define the style within this. So this is called as inline. The first way is called this inline style sheet. So an example for inline, so where we are going to define for body, see, within the body tag we are going to define the style. Within the head tag we are going to define the style. If it is the case, it can be called as inline style sheet. Here is the example. See, within the body tag, style equal to background blue, and here we are going to define the style. That is the H1 style equal to font burden of color white. Let me see. So now the style is applied. So this is an example for inline CSS. And external. So external, we are going to have a separate file called as CSS, which consists of style tag. It may be in so where we can able to see. So first we are going to write open a notepad, and you want to type style tag type equal to text or CSS. Then you want to define the property value, the selector property value, and close it and save the file name as filename.css cascading style sheets. And then you can include this style sheet in the HTML page by using this line. This is a link reference rel equal to style sheet, type equal to text or CSS, hyper reference, you want to give the file name, this is style.css. This is an external style sheet. So external style sheet is always a good to control all the web pages. So here is the example for external web page. So where we have defined the cascading style sheet. So once again I repeat. So this is a cascading style sheet what we defined. I am going to include this. So here so inside head you want to use link rel as a style sheet, type equal to text CSS, you want to give the location hyper reference and close it. Now I'm going to run this. You see how the style is applied. So this is an external style sheet. I think you have enjoyed this video. If you have any further queries, please contact me at email karthik.me.vl@gmail.com or just log into my blog karthik.blogspot.in. Thanks for being with us. Thank you.